Hello, welcome. My name is Holly Koster. Some of you know me as the Garden Maiden from the column at the Times. Others of you might have been involved with us over here at Let Growth Unite Us, or the various community outreach programs that I have organized or my husband and I have directed for other national and even worldwide organizations in the Starved Rock community. Importantly, we made a big shift when we got married a few years ago to have our effort be centered around my hometown, the little village of Grand Ridge, Illinois. And that's where I'm sitting today. And so thank you for joining me. I am here with very mixed feelings because I am here to tell you a little story that has become pretty urgent for us. And the story is about this particular place that we call Stihl. And Stihl is the brand of equipment that we sell. Real steel. It is a German manufacturer of a really well-known product that my husband and I decided to be carriers for. And we found this property. It was a perfect fit for us to expand. And I just want to show you this. This is a common property marker. We actually had it surveyed here when we moved in. And the village has since had it surveyed because last Saturday when we had our vehicle parked here on this gravel, which is according to our warranty deed, our property, all the way back to the common property line between the commercial district and the residential district. This would then be our private property, but our mayor, Kay Hines, did not appreciate that we did not want to move that truck and called her attorney. And we were on a weekend conferencing back and forth with the threat of a temporary restraining order by the village of Grand Ridge. This is their properties. It's actually 2 pins, the building and the lot. And then of course there's a commercial district, which now is, there's been a couple easements signed by these private property owners. They actually have the rear of their buildings maintained by Grand Ridge. The village puts the gravel down, grades it. Both of these owners do have tenants, commercial tenants. One is a private business, one is the post office. Back access. And then here is the property line. This is another property which the village has not involved the owner of the building. They're saying that they're under contract for this building, and so it's not a concern of the current owner on title. And then this building and a lot next to it are 2 more properties. And then the last property on the end actually doesn't have the same concern because that white fence belongs with a residential area. So this area that we're discussing for a right-of-way, a necessary right-of-way, does not involve that last property, which is ours as well, by the way. So I share these important facts with you in order to let you know that this is a very specific issue that is coming up because of, I don't know, why is it coming up after hundreds of years of private owners pouring their own gravel, grading their own gravel, maintaining their own lots in this rear. The only lots that the village maintains is their own lots, the very next door neighbor's lot, and the post office lot, which happens to be owned by the wife of a board of trustee member. So it's really curious why this became a pressing matter. I will let you know that we had another, we have 2 pins. So this is the first property line. Now, previously, since we purchased the property, we were having trouble with this cutout, and we have a couple of other requirements for our access of deliveries and such. And so we have had this sign posted because it is, in fact, according to our title, our deed, our property deed, whatever the technical terms are, we believe it's private property. And but we did not ever say no trespassing. What we did ask was that we could maintain our own gravel, because my husband's pretty particular about not giving up our gravel to somebody else or having it put in our grass or whatever people do. And that was for snow plowing issues back in November. Haven't heard much since then, but now we're hearing a lot from an attorney that says if we block the driveway in any way, it would be a temporary restraining order. So this is interesting. This is the property line, a common property line in some way, shape, or form, but not on our pins. It's some sort of common something. I think that's marking what they wish to be a certain exposure of space. And I don't know why this would be here. 25 foot south, pipe set 25 foot south. So this is a post that were put here by the village engineering team. No explanation to us. Now this is our land here. We actually have a public display. This is leased to our church. And if you want to hear about our church, I'll be happy to share that part with you. So we actually have two pins here. One is the building space and one is this lot next door. And so we have two separate commercial properties that we're talking about. This display of plants is actually part of our garden therapy program through America in Bloom. And we put these plants and pots on display and have various people in our community and in neighboring communities help us keep up with and grow exciting plants. This is a little trial for orange plants to go with our Stihl logo, the Crasmosia, and this amazing dahlia. What a fun trial that has been. And so we feel like we keep pretty good care of this property. And then out here is actually the marker of the property. So you can see this space right here belongs to the village that could have easily expanded their access to be two-way if they so choose. They could actually expand it also on this side if they choose to take some decorative space out. And so this whole lot, this whole parking lot does belong to the village, and it looks like they do have plenty of space, which is public access. And coming from this angle, some of you might recall that there was a giant, we thought when we planted this area, and we as a group of students who are participating in some pollinator plant and Let Growth Unite Us through America in Bloom programs, planted a little berm here that belongs to the village. And we came back and talked about this tree, which is now gone. They think that it possibly was one of the healthiest 200-year-old blue spruce trees they've ever seen. Now that's gone, which perhaps is because they got an easement from these two buildings and they need to make a sufficient turnaround to be able to accommodate whatever gains is necessary, and who knows what else. We aren't getting much information. We do go to every board meeting, and by we, I mean either my husband, Tim Koster, or myself, Holly Koster. We have two properties and are responsible for several groups within the village that participate. And we also have a business called The Greenery We have a farm where we do some farm to table foods and flowers. So we have an interest in knowing what's happening, and we made a commitment as business owners to be at each meeting. So a few things have happened in that time frame, and the most important thing that's happening right now is that it's very hard for us to believe that we would have a restraining order put on us on our private property without question. We could have fought that. We really don't want to put that money toward fighting these things in the middle. What we really want to do is prove a solid case that this is private property, and that what people are calling an alley and what people are calling convenience of not having to turn around, or actually, as I'm sitting here looking at this vehicle, I'll show you. This, if you've ever noticed, is parked here all the time. Not illegal. Anybody, I guess, can park overnight in the village. There's no restrictions to that. But this vehicle is a rather large vehicle, and it uses this straight throughway to pick up the mail each day to get to that building. However, since there has been an issue, what we thought was the proper thing to do was simply request everybody to respect our private property and no trespassing. We have asked that on a one-on-one scale, and truthfully, people, the mail truck has no problem using the public driveway, which is that village entrance right there. It's fascinating that this is being considered essential. It's fascinating that this village board and the board of trustees and village leadership in general has not ever asked us, what can we do to accommodate? How can we work this out? What's the real need? They've never asked us what our need is. They've never asked us what the value, or more importantly, the devaluing of property. And as those of you who've been in business recognize, we do have commitments to our Stihl USA, our Stihl Midwest, to be our word, which is that we own our property outright where we chose to put up our dealership. So I wanted to bring this issue to you straightforward, because over the next several days and up until the board meeting next week, I hope to really get a lot of understanding of what's behind this, and if this is common knowledge, if people really use this, do we really need this access? Is this something that the whole public understands as an alley, and only the private owners didn't recognize? It's really fascinating as we walk through it that we are hearing nothing particular. We have not had a single conversation regarding access with a particular board of trustee member, a trustee, nor outside of the mayor coming into our place of business and confronting us and saying, see you in court information, which is, by the way, completely inappropriate in any place of business. I encourage all of you to be professional in your dealings with people. It's not decent to handle things this way. And importantly, we know from the neighbor behind us that the easement restrictions, which, by the way, their easement is for an alley that isn't even used, it's completely grassed over. We know there are several alleys like this in town. We also know from board meetings that the village doesn't really maintain many of the alleys in town, and leaves a lot of these grassed over areas and odd areas that is village responsibility for individuals to take care of. And so we're finding it difficult to believe that this is an urgent matter of maintaining or sustaining or gaining access when we have this beautiful entrance that has already was already created here by the village. I'm gonna turn it around again here so you can see this entryway. Actually, what we learned is the real intention is to expand the back of this building. If you've been at any of the potential grant meetings, you might have heard the mayor propose that that they would like an elevator to go up the stairs, and would like to build out the back of their building, probably to that other spot, in which case then a throughway and turnaround would not maybe would not be possible, but of course they could use their whole property to gravel all of this area if it is urgent and necessary for people to get through. And if the argument is for fire safety, which we've heard the lawyers say the fine citizens in the commercial district to be protected by fire protection. These emergency responders have permission to go in anybody's private property in an emergency. They can climb over your lawn. They can cut down the poles with flowers on them if they need to. They can saw your personal vehicle without repercussions, because that is what they are, emergency responders. So to say we have to have this a dedicated public alley for fire trucks to come back here is really probably not the truth as far as what is driving the pressing matter trying to get this vote. So we're not sure if it's going to go to a vote. Maybe it's going to go to a vote. We aren't sure because we don't know the process. We haven't been told the process. We were told we would be in a meeting with all the property owners. That did not happen. People had separate meetings with village leadership. The residents were not even approached about sharing 15 feet on either side to make this necessary alley, because this gravel is already in place and the village doesn't want to have an added expense of a load of gravel or grading or proper access, or who knows what it is. Nobody has explained these things. Everything is assumed, everything is inferred. No real testaments have been given to us or for us. They have just laid papers in front of us and said, here's how it's going to be, including saying, here's how it's going to be, temporary restraining order. We could have fought that and then contested and said, how can you do this to us and why me and all of this stuff. But the real trouble is a little bit deeper than this, which is, why are we in a village with a big heart with a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Koster, who have turned our lives inside out and leveraged every dime we can in order to create something solid commerce, community, something for ourselves, something to connect people, something to bring people to our area. And then maybe we don't want people in this area. Maybe that's the idea, is that we don't want commerce and we don't want outside people and we don't want cafes and we don't want bakeries and we don't want a new church with an open mind. There might be a lot of things happening that we're just not being told about or shown, and it's happening behind our back. So as we recognize all of that, and because legal now got involved when our attorney is calling us on a Saturday afternoon, it's time. And so you will start hearing from me and from Tim, and hopefully from each other. And maybe we'll learn some of the processes. Maybe we'll learn if these things go to a vote. I, by the way, do not have a voting right currently because I do not live in Grand Ridge. So the first thing I'm going to go over is some of how people got voted in right now that are running your leadership. The second thing I'm going to go over is how you can get involved to, of course, it's a thankless job and people don't want to be the mayor. And sometimes people who are the mayor are doing things in the background that make even people who are on the board feel pressured, coerced. I feel coerced right now. I feel like as soon as we decline signing an easement, the hammer is coming down. We feel targeted. We certainly feel targeted. That would be the third thing. Okay. So 1, how we got to this place for leadership. 2, how you can get involved and help us build a community around an ominous idea of respecting all religions, respecting compassion, respecting humans, doing good, being in action to raise the vibration. And the third thing that we'll talk about is what I said earlier. I just got distracted because our very good friends are here to say hello. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned. Please share your comments at this video, and please get involved and get on board with some of the public forums that are coming up. And by all means, get involved. Come to the board meetings. Come to the third Tuesday night, 7 o'clock board meetings, and find out what is happening in your village with your village dollars, with your residential rights.